Welcome back to another edition of Printing's Alive. Today I have a special guest and a good topic too, recruitment, but we have Dorinda Gibbons from, who are you from?
Profile Recruitment.
Well said. Before we get into anything, just tell everybody a little bit about what you do.
Okay, so I'm in the UK, which is great. We're talking now, isn't it, with your morning, my afternoon. But I'm an international recruiter that specialises in the print and packaging and inkjet market. So, which is great that we can have these conversations, which I will do with people throughout the world when they're looking to recruit or indeed looking for a new job.
Cool. And are you specific to print, packaging, inkjet?
It's mainly inkjet. So I do a lot with the suppliers to the market. So it can be the manufacturers of the machines, of the inks, of the software. So it's mainly suppliers to the market, but ultimately the same principles apply. So if you're looking to recruit in the industry, some of my clients don't neatly fit into that box, if that makes sense.
Yep. And are you specific to UK or do you go global?
So it's UK, Europe and the USA. I do more in the UK and Europe, but I have worked in the US as well. So international, but mainly in those countries currently. But who knows what the future holds? You know, I think a lot of people are looking at expanding in, you know, India's doing well at the moment, isn't it? So there's different markets to potentially go into as well.
And I guess these days people are willing to go anywhere, work anywhere if the price is right.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So that's good. So just real quickly, it's going to be funny, but one of the good things to come out of COVID was you, because if it wasn't for COVID, I wouldn't have known of the Crown Pub and I wouldn't have picked up all these friends on the other side of the pond. So for people that think COVID wasn't good, it was. Anyways, just to get into it. So I invited you on because you do recruiting and I wanted to find out a little bit about what's going on in the market today for hiring, firing. What are people doing? Where do you see so many questions at once, but you could take your time answering them. Mm-hmm. Just where's it going? What are some of the good, some of the bad issues? Just let's start with how the market is.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're starting a new year now, 2025. You know, it already seems like a busy start to the year. So that's really good because you have that first moment. I don't know for anyone else out there who owns their own business when you start a new year and you think, oh my gosh, I've got to do it all over again. You know, and you can have one day where the first day back, it might be a little bit quiet and you think, oh my gosh. But then since then, everyone's been getting in touch and looking to recruit. I think one of the most difficult things that people are recruiting at the moment is service engineers. They're really hard to find. You know, it is a male mature market. A lot of people are retiring, but the younger generation are not necessarily wanting to come in and install and fix machines and travel the world. We're dealing with a different generation. You know, my son's at university doing computer science and AI, and he aspires to get a job working from home. You know, so it's that appeal to get the next generation in. And I think that's the biggest challenge across the whole market is getting people in and making people aware of the industry and how varied it is, how many wonderful jobs there are, but people just don't know about it. And even if they do, they don't know all the wonderful different types of jobs they can do as well.
Well, excuse me. Well, I think first, we as an industry, we do a horrible job of promoting it.
Absolutely.
I don't think, what do I think? Well, the first thought I had was we're in an old industry. It's very slowly changing. I think we need some more, younger thinking in terms of how do you make it a little bit more fun or exciting? Mm-hmm. How do you make it not so stiff? I think the industry is changing in terms of like the equipment and the tools that we have now in the software. Nobody gets dirty anymore, right? The machines, I joked at the front of a press, the console looks like a video game now. You got all the scanners, all the cameras, and it's fun. But getting back to what I just said, we as an industry have to be better at recruiting, right? We have to, promote the industry. We have to promote the fun. I'm personally trying to take out print is dead everywhere. Because everyone hears print is dead, and our young people hear print is dead. It's probably the beginning of, oh God, I don't want to know about print. And the truth is, it's anything but dead.
Absolutely.
Tell me about some of the people you've dealt with on the print side, in terms of like attitude from what you see in their hiring. Are they super stiff? Are they open? Do they see that times are changing? Do they acknowledge that they're changing?
I think every company is different and every person is different. We're all unique, aren't we? But what I have noticed that some of the companies I've been working with have been really pleasantly surprised that they understand that they can't just interview for a role. They have to sell that position back. They have to show why someone would join, and they are embracing that. Not every company, but the ones that will succeed are the ones that can say, right, how can we sell this? It's like you saying about marketing print. How do we position it? Let's call it technology. Let's demonstrate, let's show them what we can do. So I think the companies that, and it's also who is doing the interviews in a company. And there's not necessarily enough training go. I know some people who perhaps are new to a management position and then they get tasked with recruiting and they don't have the support to know about the process, about how to recruit. So that's something I can work with my clients with as well, to make sure the right person's doing the interviews. That could be HR, it could be a manager, it could be the director. Are they selling the company, and are they asking the right questions to find the right people as well?
Yeah. So, personally, I was a big believer in recruiters, right? I mean, we had a decent sized company, but I didn't have a full HR department. So I believe sometimes when you deal with outside people, you get, you have better service. If you get the right person, you get better service, but the knowledge, with the right person, is to an advantage, because when they're on the inside, they're not up on everything that's happening and changing out there in the same way. But the main reason that I like using recruiters is when I needed somebody, let's take a salesperson, for instance, because we all need salespeople. I would meet salespeople myself, and I would be so excited that I needed someone or wanted someone that I don't even know if I listened to them half the time. And to your point about selling, I was probably overselling the company, just because I'm a sales guy. But when I got to the point where, and I hired the recruiter for the first time, I was like, oh my God. First of all, I didn't waste all my time seeing all these people that I didn't want to see.
Yes. Yeah.
And, them knowing what they knew only sent me people that were really in the realm of qualifications that was worth my time. Right. And the recruiter I was using happened to be an industrial psychologist as well. So with his designation, he was allowed to ask questions that an average person cannot, or a recruiter. He wouldn't tell me certain things because of the order of psychology and all of that, but he was able to then make a better rounded, suggestion to me on what it was. And that was priceless. And the other thing that we did, and I don't know if you do it or maybe your customers, but I used to do all that testing, right? Before you hire someone. And to be honest, it was a lot of money. I think at the time it was $1,800 for the day. And, first I was like, whoa. And the fella said, try it. And we tried with a couple people. And then I went to be tested. And what did he say? What did he say to me? He said, it's a good thing you own the company, because I wouldn't hire you. I guess my skills weren't good as an employee. But the real point is, those tests don't really lie. Right? And they give you a whole lot of information. And then you get to make a better educated decision. Do you want the person? Do you not want the person? If you know what they're good, maybe they're only going to be good for a certain period of time before they reach a certain level. But anyways, I thought that was amazing. Because what do we learn in business? Surround yourself with people that are better than you at what they do.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. And the lady who works with me, she's phenomenal. And, we really complement each other. And I think it's good to have different types of people, different skills. But just going back to your point there about why would someone use a recruiter? Yes, it saves them time. But also it's that communication, so that, say you've interviewed someone and you think, oh, brilliant, I'm going to offer that person the job. But what I can find out is, what's their interest in the opportunity? What other interviews have they got on? How quickly do we need to act with that person? because it's one thing you finding the person, but if that person's going for an interview, the probability is they might be interviewing elsewhere. So it's managing that communication and really staying as close as humanly possible to secure that person for you if we can. With regards to testing, I think it is a good idea. A lot of my clients do use it, but I would say in conjunction with obviously a thorough interview process as well. But what I find that tests can be used for as well is to find out what makes that person tick, so that if you recruit them, you can help them with their training after you understand how their mind works. You can understand what's important to them. So it might be that they're a visual learner. So when you're doing the training, you can perhaps adjust it slightly, or you might find that certain things are really important to them so that you always remember their birthday or whatever it is. Because if you've got employees that feel valued, then they're going to be more likely to stay with your business and work harder for you as well. So it can use it not just for the short term, but for the long term as well.
First of all, employees feeling value. When an employee feels like they're part of the team, like, you're off to the races. You just have to keep running and, providing with, additional tools to make them feel that way. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think first of all, the testing is only done when you get towards the end of the decision of the hiring. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't send everyone just to send it. When you're down to the thing, I really like the person. And then, the other thing is for people that are listening, you're probably sitting there going, why would you spend $1,800? That's a lot of money to bring someone in. So I want to give you my reasoning for it. When you talk about cost, when you bring someone into your office, you figure you're going to keep them at least 3 months, because it takes 3 months for people to get their feet wet and go around and meet everyone. In that 3 months, let's go with $1,000 a week example. 3 months, $1,000 a week is $12,000. You've brought them into your company. You've introduced them to everyone. They know your systems. They've seen your systems. If they're good, then it's all worth it, right? And it's great, but you don't always know if they're good. And if you don't know if they're good and they don't work out, you got to let them go. Now you spent $12,000. Your staff thinks you're an idiot because they knew right away when they brought this person in that they were no good, right? When people know better than you that work within the company because they're in the thick of it, right? Yeah. So my thinking was, at the end of the day, you spend $1,800 and let my recruiter advise me wrong person. Let me not have them in the building at all. Let me save $10,000 in 10 weeks.
Yeah.
Not the $1,800 short-term thinking. The other thing is, for people today, if you don't want to go and hire that person to do the test, they have plenty of testing online that you could do for $100, $200, $300. It just gives you a good roundabout, as we were saying, of, what they are, how they think, where they're at, because you get their attitude, you get who they are. Simple things. Can people read and write?
Yeah.
Not everybody asks someone to write something at an interview. Right? Do they have dyslexia? Do they have?
Yeah.
Right? It just changes. Okay, now I want to jump to one thing. Okay, you're using a recruiter. Talk to me about the money. Talk to me about the cost, because my experience, again, all over the board in terms of charges and deals that people make, right? And it can be a little scary. So tell me about the price, but tell me about perhaps also what makes a good recruiter.
I think what makes a good recruiter, wow, there's $1 million question for you. It's like, what makes a good salesperson? But I think it is about communication. It is about relationships, and it is about listening as well, and really trying to understand. And that's why I work as a specialist in the industry. But even now, I'm learning all the time. It can be very complex, especially with some of the roles I'm recruiting for in inkjet technology. And I go to a lot of conferences. I go to the universities. I try and delve deep into the market and understand as much as I possibly can, so that I can understand the challenges that my clients are facing, including what they're looking to recruit. But with regards to cost, it's like you were saying before about being an investment. If you use a recruiter, you're saving yourself the time. So for starters, even thinking about putting together a job description, putting together an advert, going through CVs, how long is that going to take? The whole gambit. So a lot of clients use me and they won't maybe even put together a job description. There may never be a job description. They'll come to me and say, I'm looking for X, Y, and Z. And I will talk to them about what it is, what's the most important thing they need, what they're looking to achieve out of it. And then I can go back with the selection. Now, quite often it can be the selection's right and they'll recruit someone, but sometimes, we might have to tweak it. We might have to adjust it. It doesn't matter as long as we get there in the end and we get we get the best person we possibly can for them, for the business. So it's saving that person time to get the best person that they can do, really.
And how does the charges go within the recruitment world?
I think there generally can be two types of models. So you can have the payment on completion. It can be called contingency, where you would pay for someone once they actually join, or there is a full headhunt where you pay a split fee, which I can do both. You do find if you're doing a full headhunt, the success rate is much higher because both parties are truly invested in it. It's like if you put a house for sale and they've got a number of recruiters, a number of estate agents selling your house, and you've got two boards outside your house, neither estate agent are going to give it their all because they think, they might give the other one. Whereas if you work solely in partnership with like a consultant almost, which is how I would like to pitch myself, then you've got a greater success rate because both sides are fully invested in getting the best possible person.
And what's the cost, or how does the costing work in terms of what does somebody pay someone? I'm not asking you your rates. You're more than welcome to tell everybody. But I'm just saying, what's the theory behind recruiters charging?
Yeah,
is it a fee?
Yeah, it's a percentage on the basic salary. I mean, I have seen some companies that will charge on car allowance, bonus, benefits, but I don't do that. It's just purely on the basic salary, and that is percentage cost. So different agencies work at different ones. I know some of the big corporate headhunters can charge up to 30%, for example. But I think it can vary, generally speaking, from between 15 and 30%, I would say.
Like, is the 30 because they're dealing with the corporations? Like, is anyone in the world of print, from a print owner perspective, paying 30%?
I have had it in the past, but it was a long time ago. It's not that I know of, but I don't really know what the other companies charge because I like to stay focused in my lane, and I'm not saying I never see other recruiters, but I don't see any of the recruiters at the inkjet conferences I go to or the Future Print events. I don't see recruiters investing their time to go to these events. So I don't see them and I don't know what they charge. So they could well be still.
You know why they're not there? Because they think print is dead.
Yeah.
Because we've done such a bad job of promoting print. Even the recruiters aren't coming. But at least you're coming to recruit. What's your experience with print owners in terms of hiring recruiters, or when you speak to them and you pitch? Are they open-minded, closed in general?
I think because I am in a niche market, a lot of my work comes through referrals and recommendations. So I am lucky that a lot of the time I've already got sort of an introduction, or perhaps it's a client I've been working with. Some clients have been working with for over 10 years now, which is brilliant. Or even if it's a new client, because I've been referred to them, at least I feel that they are at least open to a conversation. I can't say that I can convert every single company I speak to, but I think they are receptive to it because I've got a reputation in the market.
Do you think smaller companies, medium and large companies are the same or different when it comes to recruiting or hiring a recruiter? I'm trying to promote a little to print owners that are listening, that if you're not using recruiters, it's worth the conversation, and you don't have to hire the first one. Keep talking until you find one that you feel good about, right? But it's like everything else. If we all focus on what we do best, we'll get more. If I focus more on selling print when I was, I'd make more money there than trying to hire somebody.
Yeah.
And usually if I did a hire, it went south at some point because I wasn't getting all the right attributes in wanting them,
Yeah.
right? And that goes back to then going to outside. Let me ask you, I don't even like the labeling of people, but like, the Gen Z world, is that an issue?
What do you mean about getting people into companies?
Into companies, or once they're in companies, what do companies say? What do the Gen Zers say after, during, before?
I don't know. I think everyone's different. I don't know if I could give an exact thing about that, but just going back to your other point about small, medium and larger companies, I would say one thing that can be different, I have seen sometimes that smaller companies can be a bit more agile and a bit quicker to respond, and therefore perhaps got a greater chance of securing someone because they'll do the interview process quicker because there's less lines to get through. Whereas some corporates, I knew one company the other year that did 7 interviews. It's too many. It's just too many.
7 for 7 people, or 7 interviews for one person?
7 interviews for one person.
Was the person getting paid to go to the interviews?
No.
Because I wouldn't put up with 7 interviews.
What I mean, and that is a rarity. But what I'm saying is, it just so happened that was a bigger company, and I think when you've got bigger companies and you've got more decision makers involved, it can take longer. So I think it's just being quick to react, and if possible, outlining the process. So looking at your recruitment strategy right at the beginning and saying, right, when are we going to do first interviews? When are we going to do second interviews? Who's around? Has anyone got any holidays? Mapping it out like you would map out a project. And then you can see, right, this is what, obviously things have to change. It's not always going to be stay like that. But at least if you can work towards a general plan, and then you won't lose people, because one of the most frustrating things is when you interview someone, you think they're brilliant, you love them, and then it gets halted. The old phrase, time kills all deals, but it can be true. So if you don't act quickly, you will lose somebody, and that can be frustrating for all parties, really.
Well, I think anybody you meet that's good, the other people that they're meeting also know they're good.
Exactly.
Right? So good is good. Bad, no rush.
Yeah.
It's a thing. Getting back to this Gen Z or age, men, women, do you see any trends in the people that you're hiring? Are they men? Are they women? Younger, older? Who's looking? Who expresses interest in our industry?
Yeah, I think engineers is still very male orientated, but if you look at chemists, then you can get a lot of more women. You get probably more women than men chemists. But it's a shame because we want to get a broader spread, don't you, really? I do think there is this expectation maybe to try and work remotely more. They don't necessarily, the younger generation don't want to be in an office every day. But I do still feel there's a lot of value for them to get in the office and learn from the people. So I think the key is to try and be flexible on both sides. It has to be an element of flexibility, to understand the company's needs. If the company doesn't make money and succeed, then no one's going to have a job, are they? So it's really important to understand that. But also, if someone doesn't have to be in every day, maybe let them have a bit of flexibility so that they can have a work-life balance as well. Try and meet in the middle, perhaps.
Yeah, I'm listen, if you don't have to go in on a Friday or a Monday morning, that's great. Because usually I'm tired on Sunday nights and, you want to start your weekend early. But no, it's, I think that, I think for young people, I think they're missing out by thinking they don't want to be in an office. You can't be as creative as you want to be, whatever it is. And that could be drawing something or working on a plan or a project or, anything if you're not with people. Even Zooms are great, and I love Zooms instead of a phone call, but you don't have the same reactions with people. You're not thinking the same things. The distractions around you. You're just, it's a different buzz. And then who wants to work at home every day? I mean, I do it now, and I get in and out, but it's awful. I so much prefer having the water cooler, and although I don't know if you can make jokes around the water cooler today with everybody being so sensitive, but I still do. But those days are gone, right? What's hot out there right now? Anything or everything? You mentioned engineers, but are people looking for salespeople still? Yeah,
I think that obviously we're always going to need salespeople, aren't we? I think what I would say is that I mean, in England, we are terrible for it, but speaking more than one language is a massive plus. You know, I don't know what we're doing wrong as a country, really, because we you know, everyone speaks English, thank goodness, but, you know, we don't seem to have a second language. But I think a lot of people do like people if they're multilingual. I think if people are good at technology, that's great as well. But I think software people, a lot of companies need software skills as well, salespeople. And I think a lot of it still boils down to the basics, though. A lot of companies want people with the right attitude and that willingness to learn, willingness to develop. And you can bolt on the additional skills, but you can't have those fundamentals. You know, they've either got them or they've not. And I think that is still always going to boil down to the basics as well.
What's your percentage of placement? I'm just kidding. You don't have to answer that. That's a loaded question, right? Going back to
so I'll stay with a client until I fill the role. You know, I won't give up on a position. If a client comes to me, I mean, I had one client that had been looking for a colour role, a colour specific person they needed for 2 years, and then they came to me and I filled that role and then went on to fill many more. Not that I'd been on that role for 2 years, but you know, I have seen it, a lot of companies where a role has been open for a long time. And there's a reason for that. Either there isn't that person there, but there will be a way to fill it. You've just got to dig deep, find out what other way could we skin the cat? How else can we fill these roles? How could we change it slightly? So I think there is a lot of roles out there that companies are struggling to fill, but they have to look at lots of different factors and perhaps look at how else could they recruit it.
Okay, question. I hire you to find me somebody. We hire somebody, and like within a few weeks, it just doesn't work. They just don't fit.
Yeah.
Am I screwed? Are you finding me somebody else? What are you doing?
The way I see it is it's a dual investment. I'm working with you and I want to work with you long term. So I'm quite rare, I think, in the market. I do a 6-month free replacement because I want to give it as much time. And like you said before, even in the first 3 months, you know, they're learning all the systems, everything else. So it's very, very rare. Most of the people I place do work out. But I've been in recruitment for over 25 years. I can't say that that every single person has worked out because we're dealing with people. People's situations change. Sometimes they have to move back to another country or anything can happen. So it's a 6-month free replacement and I'll work with you till we get that filled.
I think that's good. I mean, I think people used to tell me 2 months or 3 months, and a lot of recruiters.
A lot of companies do that. It's just because I want to build long-term partnerships with the companies I work with. And I think it is important as well for me to work with clients because if you like, I've got 2 clients. I've got the people who are looking for a job and the people that are looking to recruit. And I want to work with clients that are good clients and going to look after the people that I recruit as well. So, you know, it is important to me when I speak to companies that I know that they're a good, reputable company as well. And when I send CVs, they're going to feed back because I want to feed back to the candidates, you know, and keep that service going there. Because a lot of time, candidates join a company and then they become the client for me. So it goes round, and I think it's about that relationship, that communication, and that long-term view as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. I've dealing with a few recruiters. I had one person come in for a job, and we were talking about money. And what came out was they told me that the recruiter told them what to ask for because they make a percentage of. So, you know,
you've got to look at the whole picture, haven't you? You've got to find out. I've placed people that have joined on more money, the same money, less money. It's not always about the money. It's the whole picture. But I do think it's important, as I say, to keep the communication going, because I've had some people that will go for a job and say, for example, they say the minimum I would look for is £60,000. I'm talking about pounds, not dollars here. Say £60,000. But they'll go for the job interview and love it so much. They say to me, do you know what? I would take that job for 55, for example. Or they might go for the job and say, this job is going to involve extensive travelling. I know I said 60, but to take this actual job, it's got to be 65. So I think it's keeping honest and open communication between both parties at all times, because it can change, it can alter. But it's important to try and just stay close to it throughout the whole process.
Right. Yeah. No, I'm referencing the recruiter that wasn't so good because they were making a percentage of the salary, was encouraging their recruitee at the interview to push for more dollars.
Yeah.
So that's where it comes back to relationship.
Yeah.
Right. And I've worked with people where it didn't work out after a month, and then we bring in another person and it wasn't that great. And then the agency's like, okay, we're done. I'm like, you're done? I said, in the world of print, we quote every day. No one pays us to do quotes. So it takes some time, but it comes back to, I guess, on that, just the right relationship, right? Where you feel good about what you're paying in the end for the service you're getting, as opposed to feeling ouch, because then you don't call the person back again. Do you find with most of the people that you deal with, when they hire people, do they have good onboarding programs?
Yes, they do have good onboarding programs, and I think it depends if you're a smaller company or a larger company. They might have a whole department to get involved with that, but that is so important to have that onboarding process. But I think, again, it can sound, if it's a large company, they might have a strict policy on onboarding, but I think really it's to stay close to that person and checking in with them regularly and telling them when they've done a good job. Because, say someone's joined and they say to me, oh, this person's doing absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for putting us in touch. They're doing great. I say, please make sure you tell them that, because they might actually forget to. And that person might be thinking, oh my gosh, am I doing okay? And you just need to keep reinforcing. And obviously, if they are doing something that improves on, yes, that needs to be addressed as well, but privately in the correct manner. But people do need to learn and develop as well. So even if it's something that slightly needs tweaking, then, do it in a positive way and make them understand throughout the whole thing.
Well, I know communication keeps popping up, but you have to communicate with your employees, especially if you want to have just good relations and keep people in the game. Good communication keeps people aware. If they're aware, they don't get nervous. If they don't get nervous, they don't start looking. It's so what suggestions do you have for job seekers?
Yeah, I think you look at your resumes, you call it in the US, and perhaps, do you call it resumes rather than CVs, Warren, or not?
I don't even know what people call it. I think I might have said CV. I might have said CV to someone, and they said what? They go, what is that?
Yeah. So anyway, resume, CV, whatever you're going to call it, I would say maximum 3 pages long, ideally 2. I have had some people send me their CVs that are 7-10 pages long, and they're just not going to get read. Everyone's attention span is not what it was. We want to see things instantly. We want to feel things instantly. So a short, concise CV that's not generic, not, I am a versatile manager that is good with people, but specifically drill in. What can you bring to a company? What are your unique selling? I'm a packaging expert, or I'm a colour specialist. Really highlighting your achievements, and then make sure you've got a LinkedIn profile and that your LinkedIn profile and your CV match up, because if they're not, companies can get very jittery before you've even had an interview. They have to be the same. They have to have the same dates, the same companies. So they're 2 basic suggestions, but you'd be surprised.
Well, I what you say, LinkedIn. I'm surprised because as I'm looking around and I'm seeing people and the way people fill it out, it doesn't even make sense. And I say to people, you should have your LinkedIn filled out profile perfect. And they're like, well, I don't need people to know. And I go, no, you don't understand. I said, the same way you're looking at potential clients to see if you want them, people are looking to see if they want to deal with you after. So forget hiring, just to know who you are and what you do. It's tough. You mentioned CV. So it wasn't long ago. I was speaking to someone to do something, and they said to me, can you give us your CV or resume? And I mean, I don't think I've ever made a CV or a resume because I've always kind of done my own thing. So I put something together and I showed it to someone, and I said to them, it was actually someone who works in recruiting. And I said, well, I just got to send this in. I just want to make sure that I look professional and I look smart. Is this right? And they laughed their head off. And whatever used to be done, and they said, well, listen, it's $1,000 if you want. We could redo your CV or resume.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, I ended up giving it to them to redo, not at $1,000. Obviously, we spoke a little because I didn't have that much to do. But what a difference! What a difference in what I thought was. And by the way, what I thought was, I did on ChatGPT.
Right.
So for anyone listening, be careful. I went to the ChatGPT resume page and I did it. And when I gave it to a professional, should have given it to you. But
yeah, I was. But also, you know what you should always do as well? Get someone else to check it, because you know what it's like, Warren. You read something, you read it. You can't see it. You can't see that you've made a mistake because you're blindsided to it.
You can't see that you spelt your name wrong.
Yeah, so just get somebody else to check it, whoever that might be, just check it. Is it in the same fonts? Is there any spelling errors? Just the basic things, because again, I've seen clients that are not happy if there's a slight discrepancy. You always want to give the best possible first impression you can in any way, shape or form. So if it's your CV, what you're wearing to an interview, your LinkedIn profile, just give yourself the best chance before you've even walked in through the door.
Unfortunately, a lot of people work off first impression.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then that does you in. Or it could do you in.
Yeah.
Right? That's just the way. That's just life. Even though in general we all don't want to judge anyone, but we do.
Mm-hmm.
What advice would you have for people hiring and going about it?
Yeah. So make sure the right person's doing the interview, like I said before, and if it's someone new to interview, do give them the opportunity, because how else are they going to learn how to do interviews? But support them and do it with them. Or come in for a second interview with them. And like you said before, when you had your own company, the team often know best. Get the team to meet them. So I think get people involved, but really do within reason. Like you said, perhaps you sold it too much. I don't know, maybe not. But make sure that what you want to do is make sure that person wants the job, and then you can decide if you want them. And similarly, if you're going for an interview, you want to make sure that the company wants you, and then you can decide if you want the job. So it's just and also be as prepared as you can. So make sure you've read that person's CV. Sometimes people can come into an interview and they're not doing the interview, someone else is. They get the scrabbling around and they can ask something, and the person might think, you've not even read my CV. Do you even care? Why should I join you? So be prepared on both sides.
Wow. I can't believe somebody would have someone come in and not have read the CV.
I think it is possible. It could be any number of reasons, though, and it wouldn't ever necessarily be anything bad, but it could be, say you're interviewing someone and you say, I'm going to get John to come in, who's the studio manager. He's just going to come in and have a chat with you. But John's not had the opportunity to read a CV. He didn't even know you were coming in that day. So, it might not be anything. It sounds bad, but it might not be that. But it just might be, if you say to John beforehand, look, I've got this person coming in for an interview. This is the CV. I might ask you to come in later on, and just so everyone's aware.
Wow. Give me a good story, good recruitment story where everybody was just happy.
I had a situation where, going back to service engineers are hard to recruit for. And I was recruiting for a role last year where it was a lot of travelling, and they wanted mechanical and they wanted electrical skills and everything. And it was proving a bit hard to find, because people don't want to travel since COVID, and people are retiring and they want to do less travel. But I actually found someone who was new to the industry, really, really excited. They really wanted to travel. They had all the skills, and they recruited that person, and they would never have found that person without me. So it was great to be instrumental in helping them. But it was a matter of really a time exercise, because I had to speak to many, many people to find that person. But the end result was that they were both very happy.
Oh, good. Is there a normal time frame from when a company meets a candidate to when they actually hire them?
I'd like to say weeks and months. Sometimes it can be less, sometimes it can be more. I do have a feeling, I can feel this person's going to get that job. So I had this last year in December. I interviewed someone. I thought, you are perfect for this job. But unfortunately, the timescale took a bit longer just for various reasons. They have got the job and I'm really delighted for them, but it probably the whole process because of Christmas and everything else, looking at a month or two. It can be weeks, it can be months, it can depend really, but it's better to wait even a few weeks or a bit longer, because if you recruit the wrong person, that costs much more anyway, doesn't it? So you're better to wait for the right person.
Are there things that employers should know that they should have in their offering that are standard, or that I don't know, what's the makeup of what people offer to put them on an even playing field?
It depends on the country, it depends on the company, but I think people are more interested in flexibility really. And I think, I know it's not always possible for people to work from home, but maybe it could be more holidays or, extra time. People want time, don't they? So just thinking about how you can, to get the younger generation, perhaps it could be that you do give a bit more holidays, or you do give a bit of flexi time, or you do let them work from home, or different things like that. I think people are more bothered about that, the younger generation, whereas perhaps people who've been working for a long time might be more concerned about things like pensions. It depends where you are on the scale.
So I take my hat off to the Gen Zers, so to speak, and I hate the label, but they got it right though in working less, because I in the old days when bread was a quarter, I'd be working, for somebody, and then I was working 5 days a week, and I'd have to go in on Saturday, and it wasn't for extra pay. It was all part of it. And it was, what did they say? You're paying your dues. Like, I don't know who came up with that phrase.
Yeah.
But it really is ridiculous. And we should not be working, 70% of our week and, having 30% leisure in life. We're not, I don't think we're on this planet, for that. It doesn't make sense to me. So, to all the young people, thank you for giving us a little bit less work, and a little bit more entertainment. So, other thing is, what do you call it? Values and culture of a company. How important is that for people that are looking for work?
I think it is more important in some ways. I mean, if a company's, an ethical company, if companies into sustainability, if companies really, perhaps they're employee owned and really demonstrate that they really, really care for their employees, I think people are looking for the whole package. So it is important, but it's also, getting the culture, what would fit right for one person and the other. So again, it's that relationship. Is it the right culture for that individual? If not, perhaps it's not the right job for them as well. And also, this isn't an answer to your question, but I think the manager of that person is so important. A lot of people get in touch with me. Perhaps the manager's changed, or something's changed in the company. So I think who they're going to be reporting to is important. If they feel a bond and they say, I really get on with that person, they are more likely to take the job.
Hey, it's all about that relationship, communication, and feeling, right? It's, I think you want to go into work. You want to feel good about what you're doing. You want to feel excited. You want to feel proud to help the company. Mm-hmm. I've seen so many companies that just don't make it right for employees. And then when they say to me, well, how come, we can't find anyone? I'm like, well, look around. Simple things like make sure your website is up to date, right? If your website's talking about print particularly, I'm trying to tell every print owner, get that press off the front of your website. The only people that like equipment, they're print owners, but people looking, customers and potential employees, they want to see what you're doing. They want to see that you're current. They want to see that you're up to date, that, the website's new, the technology, stuff like that. Otherwise it's a tick against you if you're not current. Right.
I think the thing is as well, but one of the best ways to recruit your future people is to look after your existing people, because people talk, so if you were going for a job interview and say you wanted to join a company called X and you knew your friend worked at X, or someone used to work at X, you'd get in touch with them. What's it like working there? Oh gosh, don't go there. They don't look after their people. Or I had such a brilliant experience, and even when I left, they gave me a great leaving do. They stay in touch with me now. I would even go back there, so one of the best ways is that candidate experience, that even the brand of the company, but, look after existing people.
So when you say X, are you talking formally Twitter?
No, I was just saying, no, just a made-up company.
No, I know. I just had to make that joke because it was funny. Wow. So there's a lot to know and there's a lot to do in recruiting. It's an art. It's like everything else, right?
Yeah.
Wow. I gotta say, I am kind of happy that I don't have employees right now. I used to have 120 and, love them all, but I hated them all at the same time, right? It's cause you all of a sudden you have partners.
Yeah.
And I say that in a real way, because if you're all working together, you have to remember that it's all, what's that cliche? You're only as strong as your weakest link.
Yeah.
So when it comes down to it, when you're recruiting, you want to do the right thing. You want to pay that little extra money. You want to make sure that the person you're talking to understands, because not enough people think about or don't think about the cost of hiring a wrong person or a bad person, right? I don't hear anyone ever talking about that. And I always like to look at what the downsides are of things, not just the upsides.
Yeah.
When it's good, it's good. When it's not, it's not.
Absolutely.
Wow. Yes. Anything you think, we're going to get off in a few minutes, but going forward, any words for people that they should stick by, that you firmly believe from your experience?
I think one thing I would say is, when they're starting a year off or wherever you are up to, plan out your recruitment strategy like you plan out anything else in the business. If you think that someone's going to be retiring in September, don't wait till September to start looking to recruit, because it can take time. Sometimes you never know how long it's going to take, and it's much better to have a handover period where you can pass on that fountain, that massive amount of knowledge to the next person who's going to make them shadow that person, what have you. So really planning it out and give yourself time, not so it's, we've got an urgent role we need to fill yesterday. Well, you can't, sometimes people are going to leave and you can't, there's nothing you can do about it, but sometimes future planning can really, really help.
That's going to be a podcast onto itself, future planning, because when I think back, and I'm sure if people are listening, and I hope they are listening, they better be listening. When I think back to my company, we had a lot of people that were in the 55 getting up there. And I remember even when my plant manager came to me to say that he wanted to retire, and he was giving me 6 months or whatever, but I was still in a bit of shell shock. And I realized then that I need to look at everyone in the company and try to gauge at least where they're at, what they're doing. And in some cases, even sit down and have conversations with people, right? Just to find out hey, you're here. We love you. You're staying. I'm just starting thinking ahead. What's your plan?
Yes.
You get to accommodate them and make them feel good for all the years of service. And don't give them a watch. Yeah. You got to give them a Yeti cup. Those are good for when you're outdoors fishing. But no, you got to do it right. You got to think. And too many times I've been caught by people just deciding that they're done.
Yeah, exactly. And I think if you can, like you say again, I know we keep saying it, relationships, communications, but it could be the case that you've got someone in the business that actually doesn't want to retire but can't continue or doesn't want to continue 9 to 5 every day, 5 days a week. So why don't you, rather than lose those people, get them to go to 3 days? It's an easier transition for them to go into retirement. And in the meantime, one of the best things you can do is train your own. Bring people in with the right attitude, get them trained up by these people who are going to retire, especially with a lot of people moving on in the market, and then move it forward from there.
And if you think you can't afford to have that person on for part-time while they're weaning out of the job, while you're weaning somebody in the job, all it generally takes is 1 or 2 mistakes for a new person to make that would have covered the cost. And if you could avoid those mistakes, then you're great. And by the way, I think another thing is it sends great messages to the entire team when you do it that way, right? Because then they see, and then they could be planning their end of tour or whatever it is that they're doing. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, you got me thinking of so many more things, but we can't go on and on and on because I don't know if people listen after an hour when they're listening to the podcast, right?
I was saying about attention span, I think you're sure. But, well, thank you so much, Robin, for letting me come on I know you said have some amazing names, so I'm very, very privileged. And
I'm adding another amazing name to the list of people that'll be joining the podcast.
No, I really appreciate, and also appreciate like the joys of technology means that we can get to talk and do these types of things. So we should be I'm very grateful for that as well.
Oh, thank you. Most appreciative that you're to here. To everybody else, just quickly, I hope you enjoyed what you heard. As always, if there's something that you want to hear that you didn't hear, please reach out to me. If you'd like to be a guest on because you've got something really good that you want to share and tell the people, give me a call. Would love to have you. Otherwise, I encourage you to keep listening. Go check out the YouTube channel. Subscribe. This way you don't miss anything that I'm doing. And stay tuned because we have a handful of spectacular people coming on. I thank you. Dorinda, thank you again.
Thank you again, Warren.
Great. See everybody soon.
Bye-bye.